Welcome to the Streamology Podcast SP2. We'll be talking about the how and the why of live streaming. I have my mind set on the how of live streaming. Specifically, a little bit about the mobile end of live streaming. We have a wonderful guest today and a very insightful, intelligent guest. Jared Wheeler will be joining us in just a few moments, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we will get to have with him. He will bring such insight to us, and we will greatly benefit from hearing some of the things that he is involved with in the world of live streaming. One of the things that I have been looking forward to in visiting with you in this episode is about cameras, because I know that the live streams that we do so hinge on the cameras that we have available to us. I test cameras continuously throughout the year, and some of those cameras are full of promise. Some of them are fantastic. They deliver a great promise. Some of them fall short. Sometimes that's because funding runs out or because software just can't match what the hardware is capable of. Some of them don't even make it to market, but I try to bring you the most useful, depending on the kind of streaming, the type of streaming that you do. And it matters. It matters a lot, the type of streaming that you do. If you're stuck indoors like I am today, inside what we might consider a studio or just indoor streaming, it's very different than if you're streaming a live band or if you're streaming a basketball game or something like that, where you go remote and you set up and you take with you all the equipment you need to make sure that that live stream comes off without a hitch. So something that's been rolling over in my mind that I would like your opinion on, I would like to hear from you. What makes a live streaming camera? Maybe the more specific question, what makes a mobile live streaming camera? What's the difference between a live streaming camera and a mobile live streaming camera? Is it the software? I mean, because all of the live streaming cameras that I know of, all the mobile ones, they have good, robust software that can be operated from some kind of device. Is it the battery? I can set up a good 20 or 30 times PTZ camera for a basketball game, so long as I can bring my own power, or I know that there's power delivery there. But I have to have an AC jack. I have to be able to plug it into a physical connection, not just a USB power bank. For all the mobile live stream cameras that I'm aware of, they come with their own battery, and I'm able to take this wherever I need to go and set it up and shoot and be able to live stream whatever I see back to the folks that would be watching sitting on their couch or on their phone. I've seen a couple of reviews. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab one thing. I know that's awkward. But Monty Weaver told me it's okay when you're doing a live stream because people expect things to go wrong. I've seen a couple of reviews where reviewers have referred to the tail air as a webcam. And I think a webcam is something you plug into a computer so that you can join a Skype meeting or a Zoom meeting or a Google Meets meeting. It's something that you can make a FaceTime call with. I know this camera can function as a webcam. Most live streaming cameras can. You can put this in UVC mode. You can plug it into a computer and you can make it be a webcam. But because of its software and because of its battery, it functions as a mobile live streaming camera and does a pretty good job of it. It does a really good job of it. It's different from a standard PTZ camera, which you can live stream from a venue or in a studio, because it has a battery. that will allow it to operate on its own. It's got a magnetic bottom. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but you can just set this on a magnetic surface and it's fairly secure. You can post this up. You can point it where it needs to go. Use your little remote, set your presets, turn it on, connect it to your cell phone or tablet, and you can live stream with it. It's a wonderful piece of equipment. There are many of them available to us now that work the same. When it comes to your live stream, when it comes to your mobile live stream, my mobile live stream, the analogy that comes to mind for me is that of a band. And whether I feel like my camera is the keyboard or the drums or the guitar, I know that the camera is integral to the live stream. Connectivity is very, very important because data has to happen. I mean, I've got to be sending data for there even to be a live stream, right? You remember 3G? 3G was the cellular data several years ago that people were so excited because it was such a leap in speeds over edge. Can you imagine trying to live stream over 3G? Oh my goodness, that would be horrible. Audio is incredibly important to a live stream. I get that there are probably very, very few live streams that people would actually watch that have no audio. When I do a baseball or football game and I forget to turn the audio on or set up a microphone, people will immediately begin to comment, there's no audio, there's no audio, there's no audio, there's no sound, and it's just the game noise. It's not like I'm doing any play-by-play over my baseball or football live streams. But they want to hear those game noises. They want to hear the crowd cheer. They just want to hear some sound to know that there's a game on. Those things are important, but the camera drives the stream. And for a mobile stream, you need a mobile live streaming camera. So I've asked the question, what makes one? But I also have the question, what's your preferred one? What is your preferred mobile live streaming camera, if that's the kind of streaming that you do? Okay, enough of my opening rambling. Tonight's guest is one you are probably very familiar with. If you've spent any time at all in the Mevo customer group, excuse me, in the Mevo customer group on Facebook or on Discord, you have seen Jared Wheeler answer question after question after question. He is one of those fellas who is not only knowledgeable, but he's also generous with his knowledge. He is community oriented, and he wants to help people get the best experience out of what they have. He's always willing to share and help the rest of us out. Welcome, Jared, to the Streamology Podcast. My understanding is that you run an IT consultation firm. How did live streaming as a service become a part of this?
That's a very interesting question, and we can get into a little to the weeds on this. So we can go back to when I first started live streaming, and it wasn't really known. I guess a lot of people weren't doing it. I actually started in the religious sector, house of worship, whatever you want to call it, by grabbing analog video, throwing it through a digitalization box into a computer, and then uploading it via RTMP or RTSP, depending on what platforms. When I say that, there weren't really platforms back then. So, depending on what web hosting or whatever the places had, we made it happen. And that's kind of where I got my start. It was like, hey, let's see if we can do this. We have these really nice digital audio workstation boxes. Mm-hmm. Let's leverage some of the horsepower there and see what we can do. And so that's how we started doing it. It kind of blossomed dramatically at, I guess, around 2020 March, COVID. But during that time, I guess 2018, somewhere around there, we started doing a lot of lecture style videos, recordings.
Okay.
For colleges or K-12 instructors, and up until recently, I had a studio to do this, and now I'm in the rebuild phase. I'm trying to revamp and recreate what I had. but yeah, that's kind of what got me started was the house of worship stuff and what can and can't be done at the time. And
I
now
love that
it's
idea of, hey, you think we could do this? And just run with that, right? Could it possibly be done? There's our goal. I love it.
right, right. And it wasn't the pastoral staff or anybody going, "Can we do this?" It was more or less me going, "We have this hardware," and they were recording their sermons and whatever at the time. And like, hey, why can't we leverage this hardware to put, you have a digital presence, let's throw it out there and see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Of course, now you go and review some of these videos from 15 years ago. You're like, ooh, oh, quality's terrible. But I mean, analog TVs look terrible too. So
that's right. It's what we had, it's what we could make use of. So it's what we put out there.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out the best way to best bang for buck, I guess. And at the time, nonprofits really don't want to spend any money. So we were trying to leverage the stuff that they already had.
Man, when you start talking about best bang for buck, I can remember the budget to get our church 1 hour a week onto our local cable was $1,800 a month in the late 90s. Ridiculously expensive.
Yep. We were trying to carve out some airtime. And I don't only do live streaming. We've done radio as well, and carving out on a secular radio channel, it's unbelievably expensive, especially when you're like, we need a 30-second block. I mean, a 30-minute block with no commercials, and they go, yeah, we can't do that. Like, so it's been an interesting journey, especially seeing how technology has changed. As well as the price of that technology.
Yes. And we're actually the great beneficiaries of that technological change, because now we hold in our hand the equipment that took up, this massive tripod that the guy sat on to move around their camera, right?
Right. And I still have in storage, I've got some of the old audio equipment, if you remember that brand. And it's all rack mount. So I was like, I didn't want to get rid of it because it's nostalgic. But
I understand. Yeah. If I could afford to be a hoarder, I would be too.
I keep very, very little stuff, but anyway, go ahead.
But the stuff that's really nostalgic, you hang on to. Yes, I have a son that's built just like that. He's got some nostalgia in him. Yeah. So besides churches, what kind of organizations do you manage streams for?
So I can speak at a high level. I do some streaming internally for government organizations. I can't speak on what.
No problem. I saw some of your certifications on your website, so I expected that there would be some things you couldn't say. Yeah.
There's I don't know. I kind of fell into that realm, and then they figured out what I do right on the side, because this is kind of a side gig for me. And they're like, hey, can you X, Y, and Z it? Let's give it a go, right? But besides the government institutions that I can't really speak on, I do houses of worship, and I've also do some nonprofits like children's homes. I also do, like I said before, like K-12, and I do some higher ed. So I've been a higher ed instructor for the 3 years now, and a lot of the content that I have is either recorded using live streaming equipment, or we actually do a distance education style live streaming, which is really fun.
That's impressive. I mean, that's weighty stuff. You're making a difference in things that move the world, okay? But you're also making a difference in people's lives where they really are. That's cool.
Well, and we live in an information age.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can get into the weeds with this, but we live in an information age. And if people don't have the information to leverage at their disposal, then they're kind of behind the bell curve. We have the opportunity and the methods with the hardware that we have to get the information in their hands for people to make and I'm going to put a broad statement behind this, but for people to make an educated decision. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for us not to put it out there, in my mind.
Yeah. So all that goes on in that dome of yours, which is beautiful and impressive, I just have to say, you have all of this huge amount of knowledge, yet I see you constantly on the Mevo customer group on Facebook, and you're always answering questions. And I think this guy's brilliant, and I know how busy he is, yet he takes the time to answer people's questions. And I admire that so much about just who you are. But I have to ask, what do you see as the most common question there? But also, what's the best question you've seen off of that Mevo customer group?
Well, I'm assuming your audience knows about Mevo, so I'm not going to dive into that.
They do, yeah.
Okay, so I've been using Mevo, and I'll go into my background on this a little bit. I've been using the Mevo platform since the start was released, almost exclusively for some things. And I was a Plus customer by fumes, I guess. I came into a house of worship and they didn't know what they were doing, and they bought a Plus. And they're like, hey, figure this out. So I actually had 2 or 3 organizations like that. So I've had my hands on it. I know about the older stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, I lost your question.
Most common question over there, and maybe the best question that you've seen.
Okay, so the most common question is usually and I don't have data analytics or anything like that, sure. But I think the thing that I'm constantly pinging on is, why does the Mevo disconnect? Yes. And there's a plethora of reasons. And just like any discovery call, right? I ask a few questions. How are you connecting? Because a lot of customers, they present a problem, but they don't present the holistic problem. So, we got to figure out the setup, like the setup that's behind it. And then maybe we can pinpoint down to why it's disconnecting. The most interesting issue that I've seen, it was about a year ago, and I'm trying to remember the exact pieces to it, but they were using the Mevo platform, I believe it was via NDI and using Streamlabs. And they were getting Streamlabs desktop. I'm a Streamlabs OBS guy, okay. Slobs, the old stuff. But they were using that, and they were getting some kind of pixelation or something. This was before NDI HX. Okay. You could only run the full-fledged NDI. It actually ended up being a protocol in their network that was packet shaping their packets on their network to the degree of, like, the top half of their packets were malformed, pushing the image to their device, and it was showing up as pixelized. So that was really just deep in the weeds.
The idea that you knew to look there, that was the thing, just blows my mind, dude.
Well, it was a Hail Mary, and thankfully the customer knew when I asked them for stuff. They either knew or they knew somebody to get me the logs that I needed to see. Yep. And I saw them as hey, there's your issue. Go turn this and this and this off on your network, and it'll fix it. So.
And it did?
And I didn't hear anything back from them. So I'm assuming
no, if you didn't hear anything, I guarantee you it fixed it. Good. That is amazing.
So I'd say some of the more complicated issues that we've seen are the more robust networks, such as like schools or prosumer style house of worship networks, where they have a decent firewall, that kind of stuff. That can run into some problems. but yeah, by far the most common is a disconnect.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, okay, we talked about some stuff that folks maybe had no point of reference on when we talked about the top end of packets being malformed. But here's something everybody has a point of reference on. How long you been growing that beard?
Oh man, I could get in the weeds there. Um, I started growing this when I found out my wife was pregnant with my first kid,
Oh, wow.
and he's my oldest kid is 6 now. But between I was trimming it one day, the guard fell off my trimmer, and I scalped myself, so I had to trim it all the way off. And I guess I've been growing it now for it's about 4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5, 4 years. I trim it. I trim about 3 or 4 inches off every couple months.
Yeah. So the 6-year-old doesn't remember ever seeing you without it.
No, and I'm interested to see the day when I cut it off.
Yeah, I would be interested too. That's video worthy, I guarantee you.
You're right.
Okay. So back to your business. Do you mind if I ask, do you have a go-to setup that you recommend or that you provide?
It depends. Normally when I get and I don't want to go too deep here, but normally when I get a call for, hey, we need we need this streamed or whatever,
Mhm.
I have a discovery call and I find out their needs, and I usually based off of what their needs are, how my setup goes. My normal go-to right now, especially for House of Worship, is I have a PTZ Optics and DI camera. I have 2 Mevo starts, and I usually take a laptop and a mixer if they don't have a mixer.
Okay.
And I've got I've got some off-brand wireless mics as well as some Rhodes, depending on it depends on the equipment that they have versus they don't. If I can plug into equipment that they have, then like a press box or anything like that. There's a lot of variables
Sure.
involved there.
Well,
However,
just
if I'm
because
doing like
there's
a podcast,
so many different organizations that might be calling you, right?
right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, right now, my mixer that I usually use for calls like this
Mm-hmm.
is in use for a week-long conference that's happening this week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I use my personal equipment. Yeah. But yeah, so depending on what they have is how I do my setup. If I do a podcast, I'm usually using Mevo starts and a mixer, a small mixer. I guess for generically, I'm a Mevo start, and I try to not use a mixer where I can. That way,
Mm-hmm.
there's not as many steps, right?
Yes.
But sometimes you just have to be extra.
Sometimes you do. The more I get into what we do, and I'm not trying to compare me and you because you do so much more than I do, but the more we get into this side of technology, the more I realize simpler is better. Oh, simpler is so much better.
Well, from that standpoint, when we went from before the Mevos were out, before we were able to do some of the stuff that we could do on such a small scale, I remember carrying around I think it was a 16-gallon Pelican box with cameras, cables, laptops, the whole nine, lighting, everything. And now I carry a small little backpack with a whole bunch of Mevos in it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think that Pelican box weighed?
Don't even get me lying. I'm going to say at least 100 pounds. It was heavy.
I hope it was on wheels.
Yeah, oh, yes, it had wheels.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, talking about the how-to part of live streaming, what do you think the most important, the most crucial element of a successful live stream? What's that piece that you got to have this if you're going to have a live stream that's successful?
Well, I don't think there's one piece. I think it's a ladder of events.
Ladder. I like that.
And when I say that, you have to have something that you have to have good upload, regardless.
Yes.
Period. Especially if you're only live streaming. If you're doing post-production edits, you can record that all day long.
Right.
But the first step is good upload. Second step is good network. Using a hotspot from your cell phone is I say it's a no-no. That is bad juju. That's asking for trouble. Mm-hmm. Have a dedicated router. If your production is small. If your production is large and you've got multiple devices, multiple Mevos, cameras, etc., you need a fairly robust network, because all of those internet packets, all those traffic packets go through the router. The router has to process them. Yes. So the faster processor that you have in your router, the better experience you're going to have. The next step up is you want good equipment for the live stream. So from the Mevo standpoint, I mean, you're going to want Mevo starts for your 6 to 8 foot distance. You're going to want a decent device to control multicam on. Mm-hmm. If you're going to use something outside of the Mevo ecosystem, you want something with a good video sensor in it, right? You're going to want something, a good desktop or a good laptop to ingest that video to manipulate it before going out. The next step up from there, you're going to want good graphics. You can get away with a live stream with, and I don't want to say it like this, but terrible audio. And when I say that, a lot of the stuff that I do is not audio related. It's more or less lecture style. Mm-hmm. So if you're recording like a band venue, etc., for me, it's more or less the graphics. So when you're trying to draw your audience in, the cleaner graphics that you have, the manipulation therein matters. Mm-hmm. And I guess I take for granted having a mixer, right? A lot of people don't. Yeah. So I'm going to say graphics and audio are going to be that next tier up. And then your production. I'm going to say the overall production at the last. Okay. Have a game plan of what you're going to do. Yes. Always test beforehand. Roll through your edits, and I hate to use an OBS term, but roll through your scenes. Yeah. Make sure your scenes look good. Make sure everything flows the way you want it to, and then go live. I always try to pre-plan an hour or so in advance before I do a live stream, just to give me enough time. If there are hiccups, I've got time to fix them, that kind of stuff. So each priority within a live stream is going to be different depending on who you are and what you're streaming, right? But mm-hmm. I think those are kind of the basics, kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? Milestones. Okay, I'll use that as.
But you've got to have each of those pieces in place, or it kind of crumbles, right? That it falls apart if something's missing there.
Yeah. Or if you went cheap on one of those, unfortunately.
Oh. Now you said, okay, so the beginning data, the end production, everything in between there was processor driven, and I don't think anybody who gets into live streaming, at least at the very beginning, considers processor power at all.
Right. I'm under this is the way that I tell folks, you need to treat your router like you would your cell phone. And they said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, you upgrade your cell phone every 2 years. And I'm being facetious, of course, but everybody wants the latest and greatest cell phone. But they're still using, say, a wireless router from, it's 2024 right now, so from 2014. Yep. The last place I walked in, they were using an old, it was a Linksys WRT54G, the old purple and black. And they're like, well, why is our stuff choppy? I said, well, that's an old single core processor. It can't deal with the overhead.
That's right.
So I'm a firm believer in treat your networking equipment like you would your cell phone. That's really money wise, etc.
Yeah. Good advice. Okay. One more. Are you willing to talk about what you're developing for mobile data handling? I've seen you hint at it. There's been a couple of posts that I've read of yours that make me think you're coming up with something in the mobile data area. What are you working on there?
Well, it's not really mobile data. It's going to
Okay.
help with a product that is not released yet. Uh, that we have an NDA that I'm not saying anything else on.
No
Um,
problem.
but March 19th, we will know what
Okay.
that is. What I'm working on is a way to take, I'll tell you what, I got one right here. So this is and I'm not, uh, I'm not trying to sell these for them, okay? Um, this is a Ubiquiti Amplify instant. It's a router. It's very, very small.
Okay.
It requires very, very little power to run, and it's a mesh kit. So you can get, 2, 3, 8, 12 of them, throw them all together. What I am currently developing is a solar panel and a battery with an enclosure to fit on these guys. And it's going to be about that tall. The idea behind this is to help folks at the ball fields have the router that's in these. I mean, the processor that's in these guys is a dual core hyper threaded, so it's four processing cores. It's to help folks though with like the Mevo ecosystem with their cameras to be able to connect them as far away as they want to. So with batteries and solar, if they're going to do an all day like triple header or whatever, that's kind of what I've been working on between things. The engineering aspect behind it's a little bit much, especially since I'm a sole proprietor. I'm a one person, one stop shop. So the development's a little bit slow. Been looking at farming out a little bit of it, but that is the idea that we've been rolling with. I am working with Ubiquiti a little bit to see if we can formulate something together. Because I am certified in Ubiquiti products, but as far as their R&D department, they're kind of reluctant to be like, hey, let's get this guy in here that has an idea. Yeah. But thankfully, I've got a rapport with a couple of their engineers, and we may see something either third party come out by me, like a set top for this, or something that we work in house and have Ubiquiti product from. I can't guarantee any of that. Like I said, it's still a work in progress, but the idea is to help out those that are at the ball fields that have connection problems with their Mevos.
I tell you, if you do, so you've hit on something there. Say it again. Ubiquiti what?
So this router is a Ubiquiti Amplify instant.
And you're talking about adding solar plus battery?
Solar plus battery. The only caveat there is you'll have to have a mobile router to plug into this for internet. And that's the piece that I'm working on with Ubiquiti on to add a SIM tray so we can actually use cellular.
I got you. Okay. Wow, that would be exciting because it's a mesh. You could stick 2 or 3 throughout the ballpark, and you'd be
4
covered.
or 5 or 12.
Are we talking Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7?
So these are actually Wi-Fi. They only have Wi-Fi 4 and 5.
Okay.
And I mean that works great for the Mevo Start because the Start's only Wi-Fi 5. Mm-hmm. And the amount of data that passes from a Mevo is it won't saturate that, right? So and it's 2x2 MIMO, so you can actually put it's MU-MIMO. I'm sorry, that's multiple user MIMO. Right. So you can have multiple devices leveraging MIMO. I don't think a normal user would ever saturate it. That's my thought. And the cost of entry is very, very slim compared to some of the other products that we've seen, like the Netgear M6 cellular router, which is outrageous. Yes. So like these guys, I think this is a the 2-pack is $199, which is fairly reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. That's exciting.
I have to.
I'm fired up. I hope we get to see that come to market. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get something together, and give some people relief on the ball field at least.
It will. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as much relief as you can get when you're still connecting to a cell tower that everybody else is connecting to when you get there.
Yeah, and I think that's the other caveat here too. Is like using a cellular router, you're still at the limitation of the CPU in that device. Mm-hmm. Now they've made leaps and strides. The Nighthawk is a great, yes. Great router, great cellular router. The issue is what happens when a packet drops, right? And you're recording. You're just recording, because of high CPU overhead. Well, that's where this would also alleviate that, even if you're just recording on the ball field.
Okay.
So I'm trying to make it easier. I mean, that's what we're here for, right? Is to try to make people's lives easier. So,
Yep, it is. Brother, thank you so much. I've taken more of your time than I thought I would, but it's been so good, and I think very beneficial to our viewers. You've been a blessing to us today. Thank you so much for sharing your time. You're such an easy talk. I've enjoyed the visit, and I look forward to what you produce, what I get to see out of what life takes you through. Thank you. It's been a joy. Let's get to some news and to some updates. I'm just assuming that everyone has now seen the teaser that Joe put up on the Mevo customer group that Mevo put up on their landing page at mevo.com. There's been a lot of speculation as to what Mevo is up to, and a lot of anticipation for what the 19th will hold. They keep pushing that date. That's going to be an upcoming thing that we need to be ready for, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be good stuff. So we're just looking forward to that. If you've got an opinion, you'd like to share it here, go ahead and drop one in the comments. That would be fantastic. I would love to see that.